Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like when we were printing. Now I'm digital. I'm grabbing some archives here. Here's January, February 2020. We had Andretti carts on there. Mark Killinger and Ed Kennedy, and they're both on the construction side of things. This was a great looking cover. Let's see, this was 188 pages. Let's see what I was on. I got a picture of my father when I was really young. He's a pilot, and we were getting in the plane, so that was way back when. But anyway, I always like looking to see what I was looking like and what was going on back, 4 years ago. And I just grabbed this one out of here. But our last issue we printed was August of 2021 when I had White Castle on with their largest restaurant that they'd ever built. And that was, I haven't looked back on digital. And last month I had 4.6 million people hit the website, and it's just been an amazing ride. And we'll probably go over 40 million interactions on the site this year. So thank you to everybody out there on the web that finds us, and you're gold in my eye. So we really appreciate you surfing our site and consuming our content. Hope everybody's having a great week. And it's beautiful out here. It's a little brisk. It's the first time I've worn a sweatshirt. Yesterday it was 45 degrees in the morning, and the sun's out right now. But when the sun goes down, it gets really chilly here, and it's fall weather. They say it's going to warm up again, but this is like the first cold spell that we've had in the South here. And yeah, in the last couple of weeks we've had, we had Helene come through, just wrecked everything from the Panhandle all the way up to Eastern Tennessee and Western Carolina, and it's just a mess. And then we had Milton go into the western side, and had a lot of friends and clients and family down there, and they all made it through. But what a wild, wild ride it's been, mentally draining. And right now it's dry for the next couple of weeks. I'm doing my empty nester build up on the lake, and getting ready to get my roof installed. My windows are getting delivered. So I just took off my construction hat before I was up there on the lot dealing with the framer and finishing up. And so it's been just a never a dull day in my life every day here. So uh, with that said, listen, I got a great gentleman. He's out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he's in that IoT lighting division. He's with a huge company, Acuity, and his name is Eugene Mazo, and he is the GM of the Intelligent Spaces Group with Atrius, which is an Acuity division. Did I get that right, Eugene, or not? Close.
Almost. I'm the
Oh,
GM of Atrius within the Intelligent Spaces
there
Group.
you go. That's what he is. So, Eugene, say hello from San Fran out in the West Coast.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, we appreciate it. I've known Acuity ever because I've walked Light Fair, and I've seen them, seen the firm grow over the years. And if you want anything that's got to do with lighting, IoT, et cetera, it's a one-stop shop. Am I correct on that assumption?
Yeah. I would specifically call out building management systems and the capabilities that we provide there. It's pretty innovative.
Yeah, listen, I always looked at them as a lighting, but as things have progressed, everything else in technology and with AI, it's one-stop shop in my opinion. But a top tier company, and we're glad to, Atlanta is the LA of the South, and we've got every Fortune 500 company has an office here, and QD, they're over on the west side, which is a whole nother city, an hour and a half, depending on traffic. And in the ATL, but no, very, very fondly of it. So, and listen, the way that Eugene got on here, look, I got a press release, and it was good timing, and we went back and forth with the PR, and here we are. So, thanks for sending that stuff. And the way it's going to work, Eugene, we're going to do it in three parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, married, kids, sports, pets, whatever, and how you ended up where you are today. Then we'll talk about lessons learned from the last 4 years of the roller coaster that we've all been on, and any new products or new things that are happening that you see coming down the road. And then you'll leave your contact info and one positive thought for our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, and then we'll close it out. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Awesome. Thanks, David, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and excited to talk to you about this a little bit. My background, it's pretty rich. I would call out, my family immigrated to the United States from the former Soviet Union when I was a little kid. basically grew up in the Bay Area, went to University of San Francisco, where I majored in business administration and minored in marketing. Uh, from out of college, I went into an organization which was doing automated mortgage compliance. So what we effectively did was we had a product that would check mortgages against local and federal, local, state, and federal regulations, and it would do it automatically. Typically, in the mortgage industry, before the underwriter approves the mortgage, uh, they, they 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 basically go and check through for compliance against the various regulations. So we had an automated engine to do that, to make that process a lot simpler. That's actually where I picked up a lot of my interest in and really passion for just automation in general. I was one of those people that was, started to think, well, how cool would it be to automate my house and put in all these devices and be able to remotely manage it and not have to do anything. I just walk by and lights turn on and blinds go up and TV turns on to the channel that I want. Right, sort of the things that you would see early on in sci-fi movies that were just sort of visions for the future, but weren't reality at the time. Um, from there, I actually moved down to LA for a little bit, where I met my wife. Brought her. I ended up bringing her back up to the San Francisco Bay Area, uh, uh, and this was in the midst of us actually starting a company called DigiLogic. And the way that we started that company was, I was literally just sitting one day and thinking, it'd be kind of cool to be able to measure the energy consumption of this particular device that I have. Example, a TV. And I don't know if you know this, David, but there was this little device. It was called Kilowatt, which was like a little plug that you would plug into the plugs,
Plug in
and
the
then
wall.
whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever you plug into it, it had a little LCD display that would show you the energy that's being consumed. And I thought that was really cool. And I'm like, oh, well, that's really cool. So we have the capability to actually measure the energy that's being consumed from whatever is plugged in there. Uh, the only thing that makes it a little hard to use is that I actually have to walk up to the thing and look at what the energy is, right? And how much is being consumed depends on the time that I walk up to it. There's no ability for me to look at what's the historical consumption. Is there phantom load, or is there anything else? So the idea came, and I called one of my really good friends who's a technologist, and told him, hey, there's this device which is really cool, and I love the concept. Like, I want to use it, but it'd be so much more convenient if I could actually access that data via the internet remotely, right? And actually see the trend of the consumption and actually get access to that data anytime. Um, so what we did was we actually took this device, took it apart, wired it up to Ethernet, and did a proof of concept of, hey, we could actually really do this. We could take readings and display them over the internet. So from that, the idea of DigiLogic was born. We thought, okay, we can provide the appropriate tooling and platforming to then do solutions for smart homes. That was the initial goal of the organization. We very quickly realized that, first of all, manufacturing hardware is a supremely capital intensive business. And us being in our 20s, didn't have the ton of capital, didn't really want to go out and raise a whole bunch. We're looking to more bootstrap the organization, because the belief was, if we can't be successful doing on the merit of the product and what we're doing without raising capital, it's not going to be our thing. We're not going to go raise capital. So we very quickly realized that too capital intensive to go after the residential market, but we turned our eye to look at the commercial market, building automation market. And the way that systems were back in that day was, data. You had access to a whole bunch of data that is within the space. You had the ability to actually analyze that data, but the way you would do it, it would be majority of it through spreadsheets and extremely rudimentary UIs. And it was highly inefficient in the sense that people ended up spending a ton of time sort of digging through the data, looking for insights. It's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack, right? Mm-hmm. So you're literally looking at raw data, trying to find out what am I trying to get? How do I get the answer to my question? And what we realized is there's got to be a better way to present data, where it's much more in context, much more intuitive, and much easier to understand where you might have inefficiencies or problems that you might want to go and address. We created a product called DG Lux, which was a uh, web-based drag and drop application development environment. And the intent there was to really make the building of custom interfaces accessible to the majority of not super technical folks, right? Without having to write code. So we called it a low code application development environment. And the industry that we were going after was specifically the commercial building automation. Uh, we built that product to basically sit on top of SCADA systems where the data already existed, and all that the users needed to do was basically take that data, link it to visual elements, and put together their screens. We then very quickly realized, okay, this is awesome. This is getting accepted in the market. It's growing. What's the next step? Well, the next step is to actually be able to gather the data. So eliminate the need for a third-party SCADA and actually be able to enable facility managers and building owners to actually get access to their own data so that they're not paying for the access to data. And then on top of that, for the tooling then to get insights and utility out of that data. So we did that for about 9 years. And in 2016, we were acquired by Acuity Brands as part of Acuity's innovative strategy of being a technology forward organization. We saw the opportunity, Acuity saw the opportunity in IoT and really wanted to play in that market. Hence, they acquired DigiLogic. It has since been fully absorbed within Acuity Brands. And I served multiple, I was in multiple roles throughout my tenure at Acuity, which has now been 8 years. Oh wow, 8 years.
Yeah,
I've served in various roles, leading software initiatives. I was at one point the ISG chief of staff, and now in my current role as the general manager of Atrius within the Intelligent Spaces Group, which consists of Atrius and Distech Controls. And what Atrius does today is basically we like to say that we are looking to reshape how people operate, work in, and experience spaces. We really want to create spaces these immersive environments where users are able to experience them in the best way possible. And together with our colleagues at Distech Controls, we deliver edge with cloud solutions that make spaces smarter, safer, and greener. That's effectively our mission for the Intelligent Spaces Group.
yeah. I'm building my empty nester house up on the Lake Lanier, which is north of Atlanta here, right, right below the dam. But we're talking about when you were earlier saying about, hey, when you come in, your lights. So we're using a company that does the high tech software with the lights, and I can turn them on. It's going to make the home smart. Even I found a company that does sprinkler systems where it uses AI and it can figure out where the water needs to go and when it needs to stop. And I just wanted to be as green as possible in case I ever sold the house or we sell it. I don't even know if I'm going to stay there or not, but my wife's the contractor interior and we never had done a ground up build. So I said, look, I'm going to reach out to a bunch of people and we'll see what's out there, but we want to make it, as high tech as possible, but not too high tech where, you get crazy. But as a data guy, since I've gone digital, I'm addicted to data. I love this stuff. I can't get enough of it. And with the way that technology is at warp speed, anything you see today, 3 to 6 months now, it's just going to be old because it's moving so quick, right?
Oh, totally. And two responses basically to what you said. It's actually pretty crazy uh, how the smart home industry has advanced and how rapidly we see new products coming out and new use cases being enabled. I'll say this: I'm happy others invested into making those products because I know what it takes. It's a lot. And then the second thing I would say is to your point on data. We are in a world where data is effectively limitless and expanding every day. And what's interesting now is the amount of data that we are able to have access to is actually somewhat hampering our ability to be able to process it and get insights out of. And there's a ton of data in spaces, in buildings from multiple systems. And it's all configured differently. It's all in its own silos. And it takes a lot of manual work to go and first of all, figure out what that data is and actually make sense of it. Secondly, then contextualize it in some way. And thirdly, is actually make it interoperable where your systems can actually talk to each other and be able to affect one another. So more data is great, but more data just for the sake of data is actually it's a challenge. We're seeing it every day.
Yeah, everybody, same thing on the commercial side. I mean, I get more press releases about IoT, using AI and incorporating it and finding out, whether it's your HVAC or, your electrical or anything that has to do with building operation. How do you take that data so you can see it and then, apply it? But I remember way back when during my early days of my publishing career, after I left Nielsen in 2001, like with HVAC people, they could if they had a national account and let's say a retail brand had 500 stores and they had HVAC units, you could go online and see if that unit was running well or if there was something going on. You would get the ping back, and then you could contact the brand or the facility maintenance director, whoever it might be, and say, "Hey, store number 462 is having issues with the HVAC. We need to get a tech out there." So better to know up front than have them call you. But that was like in the infancy stage. Now it's just so unbelievable. But incorporating all the different products because everybody has their own platform. Which one do you use? Sometimes the end user will have their own one, so you have to learn it, especially with project management and construction and facilities. It's just mind-boggling. Especially, like I said, I read all my press releases, whatever I'm going to post, because I'm like, oh my God, it's endless. And like I
Oh
said,
yeah.
I'm addicted to it, but I read everything. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Well, that I've seen that, but here's someone that made it better. And it's
Well, you
crazy.
know what's interesting is to your point on the proliferation of these platforms and these solutions uh, that are offering data normalization and context and all of that. Uh, I want to give proper credit by it, but I honestly just don't remember where I heard this. But I heard somebody say, APIs are like toothbrushes. Everybody's got one, but nobody wants to use someone else's. I
Yeah.
feel like we're sort of in the same boat right now, where what's called an independent data layer, which is that abstraction layer that takes in various data from various sources and then normalizes into standard common language. Uh, I feel like we're actually on the cusp of independent data layers becoming the new APIs, right? Where they are starting to be like toothbrushes and everybody's got one, but nobody wants to use anybody else's. So very, very interesting dynamic that we're seeing.
Yeah. Last year I took a sabbatical and I thought I knew everything about digital, but wanted to become more informed. So I took some digital classes. I got certified Google, Microsoft, and SEO and all that stuff on the digital side of things. And it's been just an insane ride. And then I was trying to figure, okay, how am I going to take this knowledge and apply it to my digital magazine? And now we know everybody when they come into the website, what they looked at, the keywords, how long they were on, if they shared it, and it's just mind-boggling when you look at the stats and then you say to yourself, the biggest thing is whatever data you have, you want to be able to monetize it. Okay, how do I get these 4.6 million people? How can I make some sales to some of these people? I know I'm not going to do it with all of them, but a small percentage is just a huge number. And plus we want to keep growing, the visitors and everything else. So I'm kind of in a difference, but I am data driven. And everything is about data, looking at graphs. And the simpler that you can read the data, the more that you can comprehend it and, apply it to what you're doing. The biggest thing about technology is I had a guy on that helps skilled labor and they use Apple tablets. And I said, there's a lot of contractors out there, you still use slide rules. They're not in there. But the biggest fear is with technology, and you have to get rid of that fear. You have to go in there, make your mistakes, figure it out, and you're going to be such a happier camper because technology can just make things so much smoother. And where you only have so much time in a day, and you want to be able to spend that time, building new connections, making sales, customer service versus okay, where do I push button 101 to make this do this? You know what I mean? And
Yep.
yeah, so it's crazy. But uh let's talk about the last 4 years. So You look back, 2020, everything's rolling along, boom, get hit by a 2x4. It's supposed to last a couple weeks, a couple months. Now we're 4 years into it. We're out of it. There's still some potholes and speed bumps that we're all going through, but we're pretty much out of the tunnel, and things have gotten basically back to normal. And talk about how you weathered the storm, and then productivity, and any new initiatives or products that you have coming down the pike.
Yeah, so David, I'll answer your question in the context of actually a bigger time frame.
Hmm.
Um, if we look at sort of the numerous decades in the past, one thing that's been very consistent is technology innovation has been accelerating throughout the decades. We're seeing innovation in the technologies that are applied to build spaces consistently evolve, consistently accelerate to be smarter, more modern, more mature. As computing power evolves, the technology and what you're actually able to do with that computing power continues to evolve. Uh, Bringing it back to your question on 4 years ago, I think I think what happened 4 years ago was actually a trigger for even bigger acceleration of technology innovation. Right? If we look at the environment and the commercial buildings industry, occupancy rates plummeted. Right? Obviously.
Hmm.
So what building owners and facility managers and occupants themselves, tenants within those spaces, had to start doing is they had to start getting creative about what are some other useful ways that we can utilize the space. And we've seen this trend towards flex spaces more and more. So no longer are we just purely in the commercial office space where everybody has their office and everybody has their cubicle. They have their own little environment and it's consistent and it stays for them, and they have their pictures of their family and all of that. But we're seeing more and more the trend towards just open, flexible spaces. So whenever workers come into the space, they'll have a choice of where they want to sit. What do they feel like today? It's much more tailored to a flexible work environment. And interestingly enough, that also sort of jives very much with the flex work, where some people work from home, some people work within the office. There's hybrid work involved here. A lot of companies aren't requiring now 5 days in the office, right? That may have gone down to 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. So it's a very flexible schedule and a very flexible way of getting work done. And ultimately, I think companies have realized that the focus should be on outcomes rather than dictating the style of work and the way that work gets done, right? And with that focus on outcomes, everybody started thinking about, okay, what are the technologies that are going to enable these high value use cases that will enable us to support these flexible work environments, these flex spaces? Do we have, number one, do we have the right collaboration tools? You and I are talking digitally over Zoom, right? Imagine that. Typically, we'd have to actually sit down in person and have an interview, but these collaboration tools have evolved and are enabling this collaborative work environment. But we also have to ask, are the building systems, the systems that are operating the building, are they actually set up and adaptable enough to be able to serve flexible work environments? And I can tell you, the majority of the answers are probably going to be not really. No. And what you'll typically see is like you'll have what you would have seen in 2020 is you'd have empty building with a majority empty building with 5 people within an office that's supposed to hold 200 people. But the systems are going full force. Like your lighting is at 100%, your HVAC system is going, all of your systems are on. So you're consuming the same amount of energy for 2 people in the office as you are consuming for 100 people in the office, roughly. Right. So and this is what I mean when I say, like, think about the way that buildings operate and them being able to, the systems that operate those buildings, them being able to adapt of what's actually happening within the space. So coming back to your original question, like, what have we seen in the last 4 years? We've seen a greater demand on building systems and the ability for more fine-grained control to support these new ways of working and the new occupancy patterns within spaces themselves. So that accelerated technology innovation specifically in this is super exciting for us. It's we've experienced a lot of difficulties throughout the last 4 years, but I also look at it as it's actually been a lot of opportunity in a technology perspective and technology innovation perspective.
You know, I had a digital magazine forever. I was lucky. There were other publishers that didn't, but I had one, and I didn't even realize I had 30,000 pages of content until one of my PR agencies was checking in on me, I think back in like July 2020. He's like, "Hey, you still living? Are you still alive down there?" Blah, blah, blah. And but I had the digital magazine. Very, very scary going from print face-to-face person to, okay, I'm just gonna roll and go digital. And it the biggest thing that I've heard, and I've talked to all sorts of people on this event, and before I caveat into that, Zoom I had too. And I was already using Zoom, but not to the extent that we use it today. And it's not going away because right now, time management's crucial. And why would you drive 2 hours to go look at something that's going to take you 5 minutes? You can FaceTime on Facebook, you can do a Zoom call, so you can be very more productive and be selective on where you need to do those in-person things. And this is not going away. Will it be improved? I'm sure, but it's been an amazing thing. And the biggest thing that I've heard from, whether they're contractors, engineers, architects, vendors that are in apply, they've had some of the best years over the last 4 years. First of all, they've learned more about their company. They've learned that their people can get things done, and but they want to keep their company culture. And that's the toughest thing if you own real estate. If you go in any big city, occupancy is down. Just right downtown Atlanta, it's not as busy it used to be, and they have to figure out how to, what are they going to do with the space that they can't lease, or if someone wants to downsize, what do they do? And if the drywall's up and they only have two bathrooms on there on a floor, and when they need, if they wanted to build apartments, how do you do that? The person that comes up with that solution, I want to invest in that company because that's a $1 trillion gig that's going to happen, multi trillion dollars, and it's going to be so cool. You won't even recognize the landscape in the next 10 years because it's all, all that space. We have a housing shortage. There's, multifamilies getting built and all, but there's all of these buildings that have empty space and they've got to be, what do we turn them? Do we turn them into movie theaters? Do we do, whatever it might be. But but they said, I would have taken on more business if I had more project managers or superintendent or people that could run those projects. Especially like if you're in retail and everything's built for the opening of the store and they back up everything on the schedule. The last thing you want to do is not deliver. And so all of these things come into play, but I think it's the most exciting time to be alive, especially if you're in construction or facilities or renovation. That uh, as we go forward, it's amazing. And AI has, it's not going to get put back into the toothpaste tube. It's out. It was out before, just no one really knew about it. Now everybody uses it, and from a construction standpoint, it's mind blowing where you could use AI and. Maybe down the road there might be robots that if you're putting in a multi-story building and all the HVAC ducts have to be the same way, the rivets it'll be perfect. And but people will still have to build those machines, etc. So it's it's a crazy way to look at it, but someone's going to have to control that. And but you're so right that the occupancy thing is a huge issue.
And you actually touched on two things there that I want to circle back to a little bit. You touched on talent shortages a little bit, and we're continuing to see that, right? With the evolution of technology and the evolution of spaces and how they're used, there's a there's a very real talent shortage right now. And what's interesting is, as we start talking about sort of the edge with cloud narrative, uh, the ability to make systems and the ability to manage buildings remotely basically opens you up to a much bigger pool of potential talent that you can hire. No longer do you need to hire somebody that is, you know, 30 minutes away from your building or your project because they need to go on site every once in a while to check the status of how the building is operating or actually be on site consistently. So one of the advantages that cloud provides is this capability for global access and remote connectivity and remote management of the buildings. So and I want to expand on that a little bit more with you after I make this other point where you touched on AI, and I totally agree with you. Like AI is out of the box now. It's nobody's putting it back in the box. I do think we're in the very early days of AI, and there's a ton of concern around AI replacing jobs. I personally don't subscribe to that narrative. I look at AI as a productivity enhancer. It's effectively you get much more network output with the use of AI when it's properly applied. So we're very early days, and I actually think AI is just it's somewhat of a, in my mind, somewhat of an unfounded fear that it's going to go and replace jobs. It's actually going to make workers more effective, more productive, and be able to do more.
All right. Listen, I use AI every day. When we post, so I can abide by Google's guidelines. They only allow so many, fonts in the title and this and that. And I have two nice ladies up in Chicago. They post for me all day, and I was like, look. If we get a press release and the title's too long, just put it in there and ask AI. Hey, and I'm a prompt programmer. No one knew what that word was, but when I went through all these, I became a prompt programmer. And my wife used to laugh at me, and I'd be going into, chat, and I'd be like, "Hi, you're the greatest writer in the world. Listen, I need a new title for this." And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm talking to my assistant. This is the way I do it." However, I still take like I look at press. I can tell when it's AI generated and when it's not. So I have my publisher's column. I write it myself. It comes right out of my mind here. But I'll use AI to make it sound a little better before I give it to my editor to redline it. I don't care how many red lines he does. He's the editor. I'm just, I wear all the hats. I empty the Xerox, the trash. I do, but I use AI. I write it. I use AI, and then I read it again. And I say, oh, that doesn't sound like me. I got to take that out, and then I give it to him, and then he'll tweak it. So I look at it as my virtual assistant in, editing, proofing, uh, all of these things. We use it, but I don't use it to replace myself. I just make myself better and more efficient. And you can get so many ideas from it. And uh, every day I run 5, 7 miles, and I do a little video. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to do an ebook. But when I do it, I'm going to use AI to get it done. And and it is an amazing thing, but those fears are out there. People really do think that, oh, I'm going to lose my job or this or that, but it's so far down the road. But everybody's still going to have to um, program or build those machines or get retrained for what you need to do. And it's like when I went my magazine, I'm old school. I still like holding it. I see one thing I miss, but my son, he went to skilled labor. He's an aviation tech. He worked at Boeing, worked on 787s. Now he's working in a jet place in Dallas. He doesn't even know what a magazine was. He was looking at it on his watch, his tablet, his phone. He didn't know what a magazine was. They don't know what it is. And everybody, a lot of my friends, they're starting to retire after 25 years. They're getting up there. I just turned 61. So as long as I don't get arthritis or I don't go blind, I could probably do this for another 20, 30 years, God willing. But
Yeah. I was, it's interesting. I was showing I was showing my kids a picture of a cassette, and they're like, "What is this?" Or a corded telephone. What is this?
yeah.
It's incredible.
Oh yeah. So it is really amazing as far as where it goes, but it's a tool and it's how you use it and it's not going anywhere. It's only going to make things better and you just have to, harness it and be able to do that. Technology, like I said before, it's a fear. You got to blow right through. Fear is just an illusion. You just have to. And listen, if you make mistakes, it's not a bad thing. You're going to learn from them anyway. If you're not making mistakes, you're not pushing yourself every day, as far as I'm concerned. Just like if you're an athlete, you're practicing. If you need to hit the net, you can shoot all day, but if you don't hit the net, you're not going to score. So you want to have
Yep.
this as your a higher percentage as you can, and after you master it, then you figure out other stuff to do. So, what do you see, besides AI and manipulating data and what's the biggest thing that you see coming down the road, And obviously Acuity's got a bunch of different product lines and so forth. So what do you see coming down, as we finish up Q4 and going into 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest trends that we are seeing is this utilization of both edge technologies and cloud technologies, and it's typically known today as edge to cloud, right? Where you have an edge system and a cloud system, and then the ability for them to interact with each other. Um, we see more and more of that utilization, and the building automation industry is really starting to move more and more towards the cloud. There are more and more solutions that are becoming available. And the one thing that I will say is, uh, I think that in itself, even if in its infancy stage today, edge to cloud actually needs to evolve to what we're calling edge with cloud. And let me explain to you the difference. In an edge to cloud strategy, you have a edge system, which is a standalone system. You have a cloud system, which is a standalone system. And you connect the two and they interact. The edge system does whatever it needs to do and then throws whatever data is required for the cloud system, sort of theoretically speaking, over the fence to the cloud system, right? The cloud
Mhm.
system does its thing and then it throws its data back over the fence to the edge system. Here's the inefficiencies of that. Number one is you still have siloed data. Number two is the management of that data is much more complex because you're having to log into two different systems to manage the overall one. And number three is security policies are going to be inconsistent. Your security policies are going to be very much dependent on what do you have capability for in the edge, what do you have capability for in the cloud, and they may be very different. And then the last one that I'll point, and this is the one that's most near and dear to my heart, is the user experience is inconsistent. You have a certain set of user experience tools for your edge system. You have a certain set of user experience tools for your cloud systems, and rarely will they actually be similar or the same. Uh, why I say I think that needs to evolve to edge with cloud, and what edge with cloud is think about the edge and the cloud as one system acting in unison, right? So, uh, and which solves all of the sort of issues that I've just pointed out of an edge to cloud system. But another major benefit of that is uh, with an IDL or a cloud BMS today, uh, where you have an edge to cloud system, what you're able to do is you're able to manipulate and work with operational data. So think about, I'm able to, from the cloud, potentially see, okay, what's my space temperature within this room? What's my set point? I'm able to compare that. I'm able to potentially adjust space temperature. Hugely valuable. Don't get me wrong, hugely valuable. But that's just one piece of the equation. Big piece, but one piece. The second piece of an equation is, do I have the ability to orchestrate and manage my controllers that are on-prem remotely as well? Or to your point earlier today, do I have to call a service tech out to go upgrade the system? Like think about this, just a real world example, right? Where I don't know, do you use iPhone or Android or
I was a Droid on my phone. My wife, she won't get the iPhone. She's Droid addicted. So but I'm
gotcha.
on my phone. I got a Mac, I got a PC. Yeah,
There you go. So if you think about iPhone, like how many times has this updated in the last month, right? How many updates have you gotten? It's
plenty.
consistently updating,
Oh
right?
yeah,
In our building automation systems today, how many times do those controllers get updated? Almost never.
yeah. I was gonna say it was
Right?
stagnant. Hmm.
Yeah, they're stagnant. That's the thing. It's like the system that was installed 10 years ago is still the same system, the majority of them. Um, Why? It's expensive to get a service technician or an SI to come out and upgrade the system. It's another truck roll, right? And that expense is just not something that is taken on easily by owners and facility managers. So what an edge with cloud system allows is not just the operational capability, not just the operational data capability, but also the endpoint management, device orchestration. Think about updating your sequence of operations. As we all know, there's always drift in these systems, right? The system is most efficient and most performing, assuming that the SIs did their job well. It's most performant and most efficient on day one after the SI is done. Then drift starts settling in. 10 years in the future, you have enough drift to where your building could be performing pretty horrendously. Uh, and a lot of times they're fairly simple fixes, just adjusting parameters based on the new operational specs of the equipment. Uh, in order to adjust those parameters, typically you have to do a service call. You have to have a truck roll. Somebody has to come out and actually sit in the closet somewhere and update your controllers on the local network, right? What cloud connectivity enables from an endpoint management perspective is Now you can update your sequence of operations. You can adjust your security policies for the best newest and greatest security updates. You can manage your packages on the controllers themselves. There's updated software consistently being released, right? So updating the software, getting new capabilities, your building effectively wakes up, right? Where rather than having this static asset that is operating the way it was programmed 10 years ago, it is now a continuously changing, continuously adopting, adaptive building.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, on my website, the one that I've been around for 25 years, I've got so much content up there, and my web guy, every night he does an update, security patch, whatever it might be. And when you get those updates, sometimes the plugins get whacked and so forth. So just looking at if you're going to go into 2025 and you don't have a good web developer security just for your own website, it's just you're flirting with danger because I don't have the time to do it. That's why I hired him because David, your time's much more, just let me take all these sites off your hands and I'll handle them all. And he was in the US Army, he was in the cybersecurity thing, he was the Capitol, I forget the Fairfax County Sheriff's Office, but he was he's all Microsoft, Google, certified too. And he still has to go through all and go through because everything changes, and uh my phone, oh my God, but I'm the type of guy that I don't like buying when everything new comes out, I let other people buy it. Just like a car, let them get the kinks out of it. And then when it's ready, I want to go through it because I don't want to be the guinea pig. You know what I mean? Am I
Yep, I
right?
can.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
totally
But I
right.
want to
Yeah.
stay on the forefront of it because I want to be able to evolve with it. And technology, data, it's all tied to the hip as we go forward.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to point out as a huge benefit of an edge with cloud system is that you can do the appropriate processing at the appropriate layer, right? So you can do the appropriate processing at the edge and then the appropriate processing in the cloud, uh, and you can mix and match. And the company that is providing the solution set is able to then optimize where the processing gets performed. So they're going to be workflows like security and mission critical workflows where you want immediate answers. You want compute and processing to be done as close as possible to where the data is getting generated. Um, some other higher value, higher intensity, like AI is a great example of that. Training ML models. You want to do that in the cloud because you have a much more rich environment with a lot more compute capability. And one of the things that's interesting in the industry today is there's consistent questions on, well, is this functionality running? And we get this from customers, right, and from building owners and facility managers. Is this an edge-based system or is this a cloud-based system? And how do I think about this? And what goes through my mind immediately is, but that's kind of the wrong question to ask. You shouldn't care if it's done right. Like think about this. Coming back to the iPhone example, like there's an Uber app on the phone, right? I don't know if you
I
use
got one.
Uber or
I
those
got
apps,
one.
right? So if you got an Uber app on your phone, you know that some processing is being done locally on your phone, some processing is being done in the cloud for Uber. Do you know what processing is being done on the phone versus in the cloud? Do you care?
No, I want to know where the guy's going to pick me up and
You,
how long it's going to take me to get there. And
exactly. You
if he
have a
does a good
need.
job, he gets 5 stars and a good tip.
Exactly. You have a need, and this solution solves your need. You don't care about how it gets delivered. You just care that that your need gets solved. And these are the questions that I think we need to get to a point in the industry where the questions that are being asked are actually those of what's my need and does this solution edge with cloud solution solve my need, right? Too many times we get caught up into, well, tell me the technical details of where is this running. Irrelevant, not the right question.
No, I'm totally with you. I mean, some of the stuff that my web guy talks to me about, like I don't want to get in the weeds. I don't want to know that stuff. I just want to know what I want need to know. So that's why I hired you. That's why, I do TikTok and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, I took the classes. I know how it works. I know how I could comprehend it, but I don't want to be a clipper. I want to go out and sell our services and then give it to, like, if you have a plumber in your let's say if your toilet in a Burger King is stopped up, you don't call the electrician, you call the plumber. right?
Yep.
So you want to get a specialist that you trust and let him do it and give you the macro view from 40,000 feet and you can understand it. But I don't want to get in the weeds and all that stuff because it's just way past my pay grade and I don't have time to learn it, but I want to know how it works so I can kind of know it in my mind. And my family's been in construction since 1888, so I have that mentality. I still have my my electroset and from way back when, but I want to learn. I'm an old dog, but I can still, learn new tricks.
There's this ongoing stigma within the building automation industry of cloud. Is it really secure? Where's my data going? Am I really protected? Like, what are the risks of my data getting exposed? I'll say this. I think we're in a day and age where those problems have been solved. There's no need to be concerned about that anymore. Um, so I understand the concern, but you look at every other modern industry, look at the IT industry, look at the consumer facing industry. Like these issues have been solved. And now is just time to get our industry up to par with other modern industries. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're out there in commercial construction coffee talk and you want to talk about maybe upgrading your platforms or learn how the new technology that's out there, Eugene, how would someone reach out to you to bounce some questions off you?
I think the best way to get in contact with me would be to go to atrius.com, atrius.com. We have a contact us form. Just submit a request there, and then we route it to the appropriate folks. Uh, Feel free to sort of type in there that, hey, I'd love to talk to Eugene. More than happy to get inquiries and have interesting discussions. I'm geek at heart, so I can talk about this all day long.
Okay, so there you go. So go to atrius.com, fill out the form, and they'll find the appropriate person depending on where you are demographically in the country, and you can have a conversation and see what you do and what you don't know. But like I said, technology is here. You might as well jump on that train and learn it because you're going to be a much happier camper when we see how it can be streamlined. But get ready because what you learn now, 6 months down at warp speed or a year from now, it's going to be a little, but it's probably going to be the same gig, just like iPhones. My iPhone 11 works just like my 16. It's just probably faster. It's got more space and maybe a couple little other items that they've added to, but it still does the same thing. So yeah, you use it to your advantage. If anybody wants to reach me, I'm at David C. at ccr-mag.com. Just like Eugene's publicist, they sent me the press release. I thought it would be a really good conversation to have. That's how we got on here. It's like the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. And we look at everything. Very tough to get in the magazine, but we have all these other platforms that we post on every day. And don't judge a book by cover. You can send me a new product release. You can send me an anniversary for your company, a charity event that you did. I mean, we talk about everything. One of the biggest thing is, since 2020, a lot of people realize that, all work and no play makes you a dull boy. So I've actually, I post some other stuff for people that, not all construction, which is a good thing, how to buy the right insurance, how to buy the right iPhone, contact lens, just stuff that daily use. But you can apply it, if you're in the AEC or, in this construction real estate development facilities arena. So, send it to me. My turnaround times, 24, 48 hours. I come back, I'll email you. The ladies will post it. They say in the URL, it's good for your SEO, that search engine optimization. If you don't know what that is, it's the way Google finds you, and it's a win-win-win. So send it to me. I love looking at everything. Uh, so Eugene, as we finish up, if there was one positive thought or phrase for our listeners out there, what would you like to leave them with?
Just to echo one of the things that you said earlier in the podcast today, David, we live in a really exciting time, and the acceleration of technology innovation is really driving very interesting use cases and high value solutions. And the one thing that I'm really excited about is as the technology that gets applied to commercial spaces evolves, they become these adaptive alive assets that are able to adapt to how they're being used. And effectively what this boils down to is the the buildings themselves and the spaces, they become assets that are actually now becoming innovation platforms. Because you think about all of the systems that are operating those buildings, everything that's happening within those buildings, combining those and applying technology to solve meaningful problems within them enables you to look at those buildings as innovation platforms and really just huge playgrounds for new and very interesting use cases.
I'm going to take that to the bank. And listen, if you're out there and you want to talk, listen, fill, like I said before, fill out the Atrius, contact form, and they'll get someone out there, and uh, you know, it's there for you. You don't be fearful. Blow right through it. It's just an illusion, and learn the technology, and you'll make your, if you have real estate, or you're building a new home or a new commercial building, whatever, there's so much technology to look at. You got to pick the right one for the right use for what you're looking for. And if you don't know, you got to find people like Eugene are out there that are on the cutting edge. So reach out to them and see what they can do. So as we finish up, a couple things. Number one, if you're on the construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to get home, be able to have dinner with your spouse, your hubby, your wife, your pets, your kids, whatever, and be able to do it again the next day. Number two, I know it's chilly down here, but the summer just got out. The bottom line is you have to stay liquefied yourself. As a human being, your body needs water. So if you get dehydrated, this is the athlete talking to you. If you get dehydrated, make headaches. When you make headaches, you get, there's mistakes and you get hurt. So keep your body liquefied, put some electrolytes in your, and make sure that you get plenty of water during the day. Last but not least, hit the like button out there. We want the algorithms to be able people to find this episode and be able to hear what Eugene had to say, and I'd appreciate it, and that would be awesome. So, pleasure meeting you, Eugene. If I get out to San Francisco, you got to take me on one of your projects, and I want to see all the stuff in person. Would that be okay with you?
You got it any day. And next time I'm out in Atlanta, I might reach out to you to take you to one of the
Oh
projects
yeah,
there.
definitely. Yeah, hey, listen, we'll take you out on the boat in the lake, and I'll show you what I built. And I built that. I'm going to finish my house here probably in March or April, and we just finished framing, and I'm getting into the rough and the electrical and all that stuff starting next week. And it's just been an exciting time. So
Awesome.
with that,
Pleasure to meet you, David. Thank you for having me on. I
yeah.
really enjoyed the conversation.
So say goodbye from San Francisco in the Bay Area.
Goodbye from San Francisco and the Bay Area.
And I'm going to say, I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Buford Dam on Lake Lanier, about 25 miles north of downtown ATL. Everybody, listen, it's hump day today. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. Tomorrow's Thursday, and believe it or not, TGIF, boom, and then the weekend. So we look forward to it, and we really appreciate you out there. And we will catch you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Eugene, awesome. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. All right.
Likewise. Thank you, David.
Cheers. We'll see y'all later.